Hi there. Welcome to our webinar, 4 Steps to Improve Team Effectiveness. My name is Nicole Bendeley, and I'm thrilled to have you join me today. I'm really excited to share some of the tools and strategies and process that we have found to work best over our 30+ years of experience helping teams tap into the very best of themselves. So before we get into today's session, wanted to start with some housekeeping. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be shared after the session. There are a number of handouts in your dashboard. And should you be watching this as a recorded webinar and don't have access to the handouts, you'll notice my email address on the bottom of the screen. Please feel free to email me and request the handouts from this webinar, and I'll send them right to you. Now, we of course want this to be as interactive as possible, so please ask questions in your dashboard, and I will do my very best to answer them as we go along. Okay, so let's just get started with a little bit about who we are at K&Co so that you know what you're receiving today is based on not only experience but research. So we were launched, our business was launched in over 35 years ago, and since then we have been solely focused on helping teams and leaders to bring out the very best of themselves so that they can thrive more and struggle less, right? Achieve greater results far more easily through the application of simple and practical tools and strategies that can be incorporated in everyday work life. That's our goal, to change your experience at work to create even better experiences so that you can create even better results. Now, we've been working with all types of organizations across a number of different industries over 35 years. And our models and tools have been included in close to a dozen books on leadership and team performance that have been written by our founder, Leslie Bendeley. And one of our most recent books, Improving Healthcare Team Performance, was co-authored by myself and Leslie, and it is currently required reading at a number of universities in Canada and in the US. Okay, so today you're going to walk away with a number of tools and resources. So you're going to gain the 4 steps that you can apply right away to improve your team's effectiveness. You're also going to gain strategies to avoid the biggest mistakes in team development. In fact, one of your handouts is the top 10 biggest mistakes that organizations make in leading team development. And based on what you're gaining today, you're going to be able to avoid and eliminate each of those 10 mistakes. You're going to walk away with tools and techniques for affecting positive behavior change and lasting change. Okay, this isn't about a one and done, application or a short-term fix. What you're getting today is to be applied consistently so that you create, and your team members, most importantly, create lasting improvement in performance and behavior. And then I'm also going to share with you our online team performance tool that will enable you to automate these 4 steps so that you're able to apply them across the organization if you're an HR or OD, or apply them more easily with your team. Rest assured, you're going to be able to apply the 4 steps with or without the Team Fitness tool, but the Team Fitness tool will give you a boost. So I'm going to share that, introduce it to you. All right. So this is the question that has been driving our work for over 35 years, and that has driven the model and the tools and strategies we'll be sharing with you today. We've been asking and answering this question for over 35 years. What's the difference between teams that achieve exceptional results with ease and those that struggle to keep up? And what we found through our work and research with hundreds of teams over the years is that those teams that perform consistently well, right, with ease, demonstrate a core set of behaviors and practices that other teams don't. And when we enable teams to be able to implement and practice these behaviors regularly, their performance improves quite dramatically. And it improves quickly and over the long term. And so we want to share the process and behaviors and practices with you. Now, we discovered that those teams that perform at a high level consistently demonstrate 7 key factors that other teams don't. And it's important to start here. Before we get into the 4 steps, we want you to get really crystal clear on what exceptional teamwork looks like. What are those behaviors and practices that need to show up in order for a team to perform at its best? Once you get clear on this model, on this framework, it will be far easier for you to apply the 4 steps. So this is why we're starting here, to get a very clear picture of what high performance teamwork looks like. Now, in your handouts, you have a very detailed overview of each of these 7 elements. Okay, you also have a team fitness check, okay, that you can use with your team to do a quick check-in on where you feel they are doing well against each of these 7 elements and where you think they need to improve, which is also part of the 4 steps that we're going to be getting to. Okay, so you have all the tools in your arsenal, in your handouts, and through these slides to be able to apply this right away. So let's start just with a high-level overview of each of these 7 elements so you understand what high-performance teamwork looks like. Now, this model has been tested and used for over 25 years now and published in a number of books, including Strength in Numbers and Games Teams Play, and it's being used in universities over the years. So rest assured that this is a very reliable model and recognized model. So let's start with healthy climate. A healthy climate is the foundation of a high-performance team. A healthy climate is one in which people feel energized, is one in which people feel free to be themselves. They feel free to ask questions, to speak up, to share ideas. And in order to feel psychologically safe to be oneself at work, we need to have an environment in which everyone is treated with respect, in which people are fostering openness and trust, in which conflict is addressed and managed effectively. And so unless we have a healthy climate, it's very challenging to be able to reach higher levels of performance until we address the health of the climate, until we address respect and trust and open communication. So healthy climate is critical to high performance teamwork. The next element that's essential is cohesiveness. Okay, cohesiveness really measures the degree to which your team members are pulling in the same direction. In order for your team to be cohesive, there needs to be commitment to a common goal and a clear understanding of what that goal is. In order for a team to be cohesive, they also need to have a very clear picture and understanding of what the priorities are in the moment to achieve success. And in order to be cohesive, team members need to be consistently living the organization's values. Okay, values that sit on your website serve no purpose unless they are being lived every day. A cohesive team is fanatically focused on reaching as high as they can for their goal. They're fanatically focused on the priorities that must take place, must be achieved to achieve the goal. and they're fanatically focused on demonstrating the best values, the right values for the team and the organization. Okay. Now, the next element is team members' contribution. This really speaks to the level of engagement within your team. We know through our research that teams that perform at the highest of levels are made up of engaged team members, are made up of team members who take the initiative to do what needs to be done without being asked, who look for opportunities to improve team performance, and who proactively offer support to their colleagues. So engagement is a huge piece of performance, as I'm sure you know. The fourth element is all about change compatibility, right? I'm sure you and your teams are experiencing change at not only an increased volume, but an increased pace, right? And so in order for a team to be change compatible, team members must be open and responsive to change in a productive way, regardless of whether they agree with the change or not. Change compatible teams look for opportunities to discuss the change, right? To share how they feel about the change. Change compatible teams have leaders who invite dialogue, invite input, invite perspective on the change that is coming or on the decision that has just been made. And they look for opportunities to support one another through that change, because change compatible teams and high performance teams recognize that each team member moves through change at a different pace, right? It's easier for some than for others to let go and be accepting of change. And so change compatible teams support one another through change effectively. And they look for ways to make the change work rather than resist change. So this is a very important and relevant element, especially in today's time. The next element that's essential to high performance teamwork is innovative thinking. Now, by innovative thinking, we don't mean teams have to come up with some grand idea to, rival the competitor's product. Okay? Innovative thinking is all about everyday innovation, okay? Looking for opportunities to challenge the status quo rather than simply accepting the fact that, well, this is the way it's always been, so this is the way it's always going to be, right? Innovative teams try new ideas and approaches. They are not risk averse. They are open to taking risks and learning from those trial and error approaches, right? And so they're looking for new and different ways to achieve results, new and different ways to support clients, to support stakeholders, to support customers, to do the work, to achieve results. That's what innovative thinking is all about. Shared leadership is all about, which is the next element, is all about the leader stepping out of the center of the circle and empowering team members to step up and take on more, so that there is a shared sense of ownership for the success of the team, so that there's a shared sense of ownership to solve issues, to bring solutions forward. It's not just about passing the buck on to the leader to solve everything. It's about a shared sense of ownership for moving the team forward towards results, right? Are team members involved in decision making? Are they asked for input, right? Are they empowered to solve problems on their own, right? So shared leadership is essential to high performance teams. And then finally, group work skills. This is really about how well your team performs and works together in a meeting setting. Okay, meetings are where decisions get made. Meetings are where delegation happens. Meetings are when discussion and brainstorming and clarifying and sharing ideas happen. If your meetings aren't working well, your teams aren't working well. And it's amazing. Our #1 workshop is meeting effectiveness, because people want to spend less time in meetings. If you're spending too much time in meetings, you're not using your meeting time effectively. You should be able to spend less time in meetings and achieve far more when your meetings run well. So this element is focused on meeting effectiveness, the way in which communication happens in the meetings, how are decisions made, are team members leaving with a sense of accomplishment, are you making the most of your meetings? This is an essential element. It drives productivity, execution, communication. Okay, so really give some thought to how well are you using your time in your meetings? So those are the 7 elements of a high-performance team. And the reason why we share those at the beginning is because it's important, like I said, to get crystal clear on what high-performance teamwork looks like, so that you begin to understand and your team begins to understand where the strengths lie and where the opportunities lie. Now, we're going to be moving into your 4-step process. And I encourage you to remember that team development is a process. It is not an event. If you're looking for a quick fix or something to quickly, fix your team's problems, or a half-day event or a one-day team building session that's going to solve all the problems, this webinar is not for you. We will be sharing a 4-step process to apply consistently over time to achieve long-lasting change in behavior and performance. Okay, so here's the 4 steps. The first step is to get crystal clear. Get crystal clear on what high-performance teams look like. Then get your team fanatically focused on becoming a high-performance team or sustaining high performance. The third step is enabling ongoing team action and accountability. Okay, we want this process and team members to take ownership of their own development and performance, and to take ongoing action to continuously improve their performance. And then finally, the last step is simply checking in and repeating the process. Okay, so let's jump in with the first step. Oh, sorry, before we do that, I want to introduce you quickly to the Team Fitness tool, which I'll be sharing some information about as we go through the webinar. So the Team Fitness tool will allow you to automate these 4 steps within your own team, or ideally across the organization. And so the Team Fitness tool provides you with this process online. It saves 40 hours of development time per team. So if you are, and I see that we have a number of OD and HR professionals on the webinar, this will save you 40 hours of development time for each team you support in a team development initiative. This tool has been shown to improve team performance in 30 days or less, okay, in as little as 30 days. And it's only $75 per team member. Okay, so it's very cost effective. So I'll be letting you know more about this as we go through the webinar. So getting back to the process, the very first step is to get clear. This is about defining what a high performance team looks like, which we just did for you. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that organizations make, which is in your handout, is that there is no clear definition across the organization about, of what high performance teams look like. And so teams are striving to achieve different things, right? It's like wearing a blindfold and trying to throw a dart at a dartboard, right? If you don't know what you're working towards, you're not going to be able to achieve it. And there won't be consistency across the organization as far as how we work together. So having a common team framework is essential in order to dramatically improve team performance across the organization, and it's essential within each individual team so that they know exactly what they're working towards. And you as leaders know where your team needs to focus its attention in order to improve, and also know where to focus their attention as far as their strengths and how to leverage their strengths. So we just defined what high performance teamwork looks like for you. Now you may have your own model. If you do, fantastic. Have a model. If you find that these 7 elements, the 7 elements of a high performance team, align with your organization's values, we encourage you to use these 7 elements. And I encourage you as OD and HR professionals to go back to your team to share the 7 elements, and you have a handout that will allow you to do that, and begin a dialogue. Ask, how are the 7 elements aligned with our work and our vision? How can we better align our work to the 7 elements to better support our teams? Do we typically treat team development as an event or as a process? And what can we begin to do differently in how we approach our work? And I see I have a question from Jim here. Yes, Jim, the 7 elements are associated with a team assessment, which I'll be showing you in a little bit. So we do have a team fitness assessment that measures each of these 7 elements. So it's a real Team 360 that teams can use to assess themselves against each of these 7 elements. So the 35-question assessment that takes 10 minutes to complete, and you'll get a sneak peek at that in a little bit. Okay, thanks for your question, Jim. All right, now as leaders, I encourage you, for those of you who lead a team and are outside of HR and OD, and I know there are a number of you on the call or on the webinar who fit that bill, I encourage you to reflect on the 7 elements and ask yourself, is this aligned with our work and where our teams need to go? If so, then great, use these 7 elements as your framework. Now, the first step was to get clear. The second step is to get your team fanatically focused. And by fanatically focused, I mean get your team fanatically focused on what high performance teams look like. And then have them ask themselves, how do we measure up? What will we celebrate? Where are we strong? And what will we improve upon first? So I'm going to be sharing with you a process to get your team fanatically focused. This is not about getting your team focused on improving every single element. This is on getting your team fanatically focused on what high performance teamwork looks like, getting them fanatically focused on their strengths, recognizing their strengths, and then focusing on one area, that they commit to develop over the course of a couple of months. We don't want to overwhelm teams. We don't want to overwhelm you, the leader, on feeling like you have to improve everything under the sun. No, one step at a time. Let's build momentum, okay? So let's dig into get your team fanatically focused. Now, in order for team development to work, it must be done by the team, not to the team. One of the most powerful pieces of this 4-step process is that the team really owns it. The team becomes engaged. They are the ones that identify their strengths. They are the ones that identify their opportunities for improvement. And they are the ones that will identify where they should focus their attention to improve. This process is not about OD or HR or the leader coming in and saying, you know what, I took a look at this model and you really need to work on your climate. And so here's what we're going to do. No, that's not what this process is about. This needs to come from your team in order for it to work. So let's jump in. The first step of getting fanatically focused is having a team kickoff meeting, a team development kickoff meeting. Okay, you have this once you're committed to engaging your team in the process. So you're going to clarify the purpose of the team development process, right? Link the purpose to team needs, create positivity. This isn't designed to be punitive or designed to fix the team in any way. This process is about enabling the team to create the type of environment, the type of experience, the type of productivity that they believe the team needs in order to achieve even greater results and an even more positive experience at work. Okay, so take time to clarify the purpose of the process, why you're inviting them to participate in this. Then review the team development process that I'm going to be sharing with you today, and you have it in your notes as well, your handouts. Okay, review all of the steps with them. Then engage them by creating a dialogue and have them identify the outcomes they'd like to achieve together. Right? Ask questions like, what does a positive team development experience look like for you? In order for this process to be worthwhile, what needs to happen? Right? And so have them help design the experience and identify the goals. And then it's also important to clarify team member responsibility in this process. Okay, there will be work to be done, right? This isn't a passive experience. We need engagement, we need participation, we need people to speak up, to share their perspective. So clarify that up front. And then identify the immediate next steps, which we'll be looking at in a minute. Okay, so start with a kickoff meeting. This is about building support and understanding for the process that they will be experiencing. Too often, we have teams who just show up at a one-day workshop who have never understood the reason why, have had opportunity, or who haven't had opportunity to contribute to it. So we actually no longer will do team development without the right process to engage teams up front, okay? Because it just does not work. They will feel like it's being done to them as opposed to by them, okay? So you have your first kickoff meeting, then you're in your first team development session, which is the Get Fanatically Focused session. The first piece of this workshop is to get clear. So this is a team development session, okay? This is their very first one, and by first, I mean first. In order for performance to improve, there need to be a number of opportunities for team members to come together to have a dialogue around how they're working together. I don't mean you're going to have a series of full-day workshops over the course of 1 month. That's just not realistic. But you're going to be gaining ways to incorporate this type of dialogue within everyday meetings, in group huddles, etc. But your first session needs to be at least an hour or two, if not a half day, okay? So the first piece of this session is to get clear, where you're going to share the 7 elements of a high-performance team with your team, so that they begin to gain an understanding of what high-performance teams look like. If you don't want to use this model, fine, replace it with another one, but have a model to use. Once they've had an opportunity to talk about the 7 elements, create more dialogue. Okay, ask what resonates. What do we as a team do really well? Out of these 7 elements, where are we strong? What should we celebrate and recognize? Then move to, okay, what can we improve upon? And why is it important to improve upon it? I don't care how well your team is performing, there is always room for improvement. Always. okay? And the best teams are consistently striving to be even better. Then the third step in this session is to get fanatically focused on one element to focus on. So have the team identify which of the 7 elements they should focus their attention on first as far as improving. So if the team, for example, has been discussing that change compatibility, is somewhere they really need to improve because a lot of change is coming, then that would be a really great place to start. So have the team choose one element to focus on. Just one. This isn't about changing everything at once or improving everything at once. Once you come to agreement on where the team is going to focus its attention through the remaining part of the team development process, get specific. Okay, great. We've agreed we're going to improve change compatibility. We're going to focus on this. What are some things we need to do to improve? What do we need to start doing more of? What do we need to start doing differently? What do we need to do less of? Capture their ideas. Begin a dialogue around, all right, what needs to change? What do we need to improve? What do we need to start doing? What actions do we need to take in order to become more change compatible? And then create action. Okay, so we've identified all of these things that we need to start thinking about doing differently. What will we actually commit to? What are our next steps? Okay, so those are 2 very important questions. And then thirdly, how will we maintain momentum from this session? Okay, how are we going to hold each other accountable? How are we going to make sure this isn't just a flash in the pan? Have your team members identify what they think needs to happen in order to maintain momentum. This is a very important session, okay? Your kickoff meeting and the first session paves the way for the rest of the process. Now, this is one of my favorite quotes by Peter Drucker. What gets measured gets improved. People change what is measured. Okay, now in a sense, what you're doing by sharing the 7 elements and by having your team talk about and identify where they're strong and where they need to improve, you're assessing, right? In a qualitative way, your team is assessing themselves against these 7 elements. Now, if you want a more reliable way to assess the team, for the team to assess themselves, and a means to have team members share very detailed, honest feedback against each of the 7 elements, then you can use our team assessment. Okay, our team fitness assessment, as I had shared with Jim earlier, is a 35-question survey that assesses each of the 7 elements. And team members can complete this online, anonymously, and it only takes 10 minutes to complete. And you, the leader and the team will get a very clear picture of where the team has fallen as far as the strength of each element, how the team perceives itself against each element. So now you no longer just have the dialogue, you actually have the data behind it from the team's perspective to support it. And it's anonymous, so you're going to gain much more reliable feedback, and it's so quick. It takes less than 5 minutes to launch the assessment and 10 minutes to complete it. And as soon as the last team member completes the assessment, your results are generated. So here you can see an example of the top 5 scoring statements for a team, for example, right? So you can hop into the results and quickly get a sense of where your team's strengths lie, right? Team members respect one another. Team members feel free to give their honest opinions. Input from team members is used whenever possible. There is a feeling of openness and trust in our team, and members make team meetings a priority. So in this team, climate is one of their strongest elements, which is great. You also gain a sense of their areas for improvement. you can quickly see the statements that require the most improvement, right? For this team, they need to explore ideas more. They need to stay on track and on time more in their meetings, like many teams. They don't believe that their mandate goals and objectives are necessarily clear and agreed to. They believe they need to challenge the status quo more. And they don't believe that their priorities are aligned with one another. Okay, so again, that gives you and the team a very clear picture as far as where you need to begin to focus your attention. Okay, you also would of course receive all of the data. This isn't just, you just don't get the top 5 scoring statements and the lowest 5 scoring statements. You get all the results. And there's also a comment section at the end of the assessment that simply asks, share anything else you would like to share about the effectiveness of your team. And so, and again, the comments come through as anonymous, and you can get a better sense of how the team is feeling through the comment section. Okay. And you have a guide, a facilitator guide to have that first session, the Get Fanatically Focused session. You have your facilitator's guide. You have your team handouts, and you have everything you need to lead a 1 hour to 2 hour conversation around the results of the assessment, what the team is going to celebrate, what are the team's strengths, what are our opportunities for improvement, and where are we going to focus our attention first. Okay, so we take the guesswork out of everything for you and the legwork out of this. You already know in just a few minutes where your team's strengths are, where your team's opportunities for improvement are, and your team members, every single team member has the opportunity to give their input. Okay? Now, regardless of whether you use the team fitness tool or not, that first session is essential. And so ensure that the first session creates awareness of the factors most critical to a team's ability to perform at its best. Okay, so choose a team framework. Whether it's ours or another one, do not do team development unless you're working towards a common definition of what high-performance teams look like. Ensure the first session addresses the specific strengths and needs identified by the team. So create opportunity like we did in the Get Fanatically Focused session for the team to identify where they're strong and where they need to improve. Ensure the session creates team dialogue, right? So if you are using a team assessment, it's not about being the sage on the stage and presenting the results of the assessment back to your team and saying, this is where you're strong, or this is where you need to improve. No, it's about creating dialogue. It's about the team identifying, what does this mean to us? What's working? What's not? What are we going to do about it? Create time for team members to clarify expectations around, what do we need from one another to strengthen this element? Okay, what do we need to start doing differently? Ensure there's time for reflection, where there's some quiet time for people to reflect on the framework, on the results of the assessment if you're using an assessment, on the questions being asked. Don't just immediately jump into discussion, because team members sometimes need time to really reflect. And then this is really important, which will move us into the next step. Ensure teams leave that first session with a set of tools that they can easily use in team meetings or in huddles to keep the dialogue going and the momentum going. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Okay. Any questions? Yes, Sarah. Yes. This first session, so if we go back here, Sarah's asking, is there a guide to support this first session? So this is really your guide here, Sarah. where you have a structured approach, right? Step 1 in this session is to get clear, review the 7 elements, etc. So you're following this roadmap for your session, okay? Or you can choose to use the team fitness tool, and you will not only gain the assessment, but you will also gain the guides that you can use in each team session. Okay, so that the instructional design is done for you, the legwork is done for you. Okay, so you have some options there. Okay, thanks, Sarah. All right, so we're moving on to the third question, or the third step, sorry, which is enabling ongoing team action and accountability. So we do not want to stop at that Get Fanatically Focused session. That would be the equivalent of a one and done session. Okay, you're not going to see change from one session. Sustainable team development requires the team having the right tools to enable ongoing dialogue and action. So I mentioned a minute ago that we're going to talk about tools. Well, here we go. By team tools, we mean a few different things. Exercises. Okay, if you were to search team building exercises online, you will find a whole slew of exercises that you could use. Okay, exercises that create dialogue, reflection, awareness, learning, and action. Okay, you want to be sure that the exercises address those things. Team tools are also spark dialogue. Okay, they can be simply be powerful questions. One question that's asked during a team meeting that's focused on a particular area for improvement that creates dialogue. And I'm going to share an example. And it's important that these team tools are easy to use and incorporate into everyday work. Okay. Now, regardless of the kind of tools that you use, they need to be aligned with the area of focus. So if your team has identified change compatibility, the exercises and questions you ask need to be focused on change compatibility, becoming more change compatible. If your team is focused on cohesiveness, the tools need to be focused on cohesiveness. So here's an example of questions to ask around cohesiveness. Okay, these are examples of team tools through the use of questions. So if your team has identified the need to strengthen cohesiveness, there's a need to get clear on what success looks like. So you can simply ask in a team meeting, okay, how do we define success as a team? What is our ultimate goal? Simple but powerful question that will generate probably a lot of different answers, especially if your team needs to improve its cohesiveness. So that's where a starting point, a question that you can ask to help get clear on and develop your team's success statement or goal statement. Then at the next meeting, you can ask, okay, what are our top 3 priorities? What are the priorities we need to be focused on to achieve the goal we set last month at our last team meeting? Okay, then you identify those 3 priorities. Then you can ask, how do we ensure we stay fanatically focused on these priorities in our goal? How do we keep these top of mind? How do we stay committed and focused to on these? Simple yet powerful questions. These are examples of team tools. Now, gathering team tools and thinking through and identifying the questions you're going to ask in your team meetings to keep people focused and the dialogue going can take time, right? Teamwork, team development takes time, takes work, it takes effort. Doesn't need to be complicated, but it takes effort. And so what we have seen work really well is when teams create a champion team. It can be a champion team of 2, or for large teams, it might be a champion team of 4 or 5. This is a group of individuals who take ownership of sustaining the team development process. So they are the ones who are gathering the tools, who are identifying the questions to ask during team meetings, who are ensuring that there is time set aside in team meetings for team development. They are the ones that keep the team focused on how we are working together, so that it doesn't just rest on the shoulder of the leader. You, the leader, already have enough on your plate. This also shouldn't just solely be the responsibility of HR and OD, okay? This should be a team responsibility. So invite participation, ask for volunteers to take ownership of the process. Now I have a question from Kim. Hi, Kim. Asking if this, yes. So how does this work if OD is helping to lead the process? So this should be a shared responsibility. Usually what happens, the best process is for OD to kick it off, to lead this very first session, to introduce the process to the team with the leader. OD leads the first Get Fanatically Focused session. Then a champion team is formed, and OD can share tools with the champion team to use. Okay, if OD already has a set of tools or some questions, great questions they should be asking, then the OD consultant or specialist can work closely with the champion team or the leader or the leader to ensure that momentum gets maintained. This should be shared responsibility, but ideally the bulk of the work is being done by the team itself, and OD can take steps back as the team moves through the process. As the goal is for the team to lead themselves through this, not for OD to lead the team through everything. Okay, thanks for that question. Now, we talk about team tools, so I want to show you, hop into the team fitness tool for a minute. The team fitness tool actually generates all of your team tools for you. So this team, a quality team from a manufacturing company that we worked with, this team, when they completed their team assessment, they identified group work skills, cohesiveness, and innovative thinking as the top 3 elements requiring, having the most opportunity for improvement. Okay, so their assessment results identified these were the 3 lowest scoring elements. And so what the team fitness tool does is it generates all of your team tools for you. So you'll see for group work skills, there are 4 different exercises of varying lengths, right? We have who's listening exercise for 10 minutes, meetings for better or worse 45, creating dialogue an hour, meeting effectiveness barometer only 25 minutes. Each exercise includes a facilitator guide, handouts if applicable, and PowerPoint slides if applicable. Then you'll see for cohesiveness, a whole other set of exercises of varying lengths, and the same for innovative thinking. These exercises, okay, are your team tools, so that if your team, it saves you the legwork. Your team members, your champion team, or your leader can hop into the system and choose a tool for the next team meeting to use. And our facilitator guides are designed to handhold you, right? Ask this question. Here are the common responses that you're likely to get. Then ask this question. Okay, so the work is done for you. From an OD perspective, should you be leading multiple team development sessions with a team, all of your instructional design is done for you. So you can mix and match different exercises. You can combine them with content you already have within your organization. There is 2 full days worth of content generated for you within the system. Okay, so all of your design is done for you. Okay, this is why this tool saves 40 hours of development time per team from an OD and HR perspective, because all of the work is done for you, except the facilitation. We can't do, well, we could do that for you if you wanted us to. Just let us know and we'd be happy to facilitate for you. But for those of you who want to do this internally, everything else is done for you. Now, it's really important that even should you be choosing and developing your own team tools, that's fantastic. Keep these things in mind. Team tools should spark individual and team awareness around a particular topic regarding team performance, especially linked to one of those 7 elements. Okay? They should spark dialogue. Again, it's not about you presenting information to the team. This is about having a dialogue, asking questions that spark dialogue. Should offer opportunity for self-reflection so people can think through, how am I showing up in this? What do I need to start doing differently? Or what do I need from my team members or my leader? And then every tool should spark some form of action, right? Change happens through action. We need to take action. Now, each of the exercises included in the team fitness tool are designed by us at K&Co. Excuse me, nothing is put online that hasn't been tested and used by teams, so we know they work. And anybody can facilitate using these facilitator guides. You do not need to be an expert facilitator. They're designed for an average team member to be able to lead them in a team meeting. When you think about engaging team members in the process, identify tools that a team member can use within a team meeting and facilitate it themselves, so that there's shared responsibility for using these tools. It's not just the leader, it's not just OD, it's not just the champion team. Everybody can take part. Now, the second piece of sustainability is that sustainable team development requires a structured process. So let's look at what that process is. A sustainable process includes dedicating time in monthly meetings for the team to focus on its performance, on how they are working together. So schedule time once a month to use a team tool. I don't care if it's only 20 minutes or if it's the whole hour. Dedicate specific time to having a dialogue around how the team is working together, ideally using a team tool. Use huddles. Monday morning huddles are phenomenal, okay? Have a quick 10-minute huddle on Monday morning and simply ask, how did we do last week in improving our change compatibility? What do we need to do differently this week, as an example, okay? So you have your monthly team meetings, you have your huddles, and then quarterly check-ins, which is a longer chunk of time, more than 20 minutes for sure, ideally an hour every quarter, okay? Now, from an OD perspective, for those of you on the webinar in OD or HR, you want to check in at least quarterly with the leader, simply to say, how's it going? What support do you need? What's working? What's not? What's the momentum like? What change are you noticing? And then every quarter, there should be at least an hour where the team can participate in a longer team activity. This can be led by OD, can be led by the champion team, it can be led by the leader. It's up to you. It depends too on the sensitivity and what the team is trying to work on. Sometimes it is better for OD to come in and lead it, especially if the team is trying to work through its climate, right, which can be trickier for sure. It's best to have an external person from the team lead that, okay? But quarterly sessions are important. And then the biannual check-in and assessment, where the team comes back together to reassess, to celebrate, and identify what's next, which is really taking us into the last step of the process. Okay, so here we are. 4, check in and repeat. This is all about where are we now? So this is ideally at the 6-month mark, 4 to 6 month mark, okay? Where are we now in relation to the 7 elements, right? How far have we come? What can we celebrate? What have we noticed that's improved? Let's recognize our hard work. And what will we improve upon next, right? So this is about continuous, never-ending improvement. Recognize and celebrate the great achievements you've made over the past 4 to 6 months. And now what, right? Maybe the team identifies they still need to work on its change compatibility, or maybe they feel strong there and want to shift to another element. It's up to the team. Okay. Now, in the team fitness tool, you gain a complete roadmap to this process, right? Where again, we handhold you. Week 1, introduce this. Week 3, do this. Week 4, do this. Weeks 5 to 8, do this. Okay, so we walk you through the first three months of the process. So you gain everything you need in the team fitness tool to apply those 4 steps very easily and quickly. So those 4 steps are: get clear on what exceptional teamwork looks like, get your team fanatically focused on what exceptional teamwork looks like and where they are strong and where they want to focus their development first. Then enable that development, enable that ongoing dialogue and action and accountability through the use of team tools. And then check in and repeat. Okay, now the reassessment in the team fitness tool, I actually don't have an image of it here, but this reassessment in the check-in and repeat in the team fitness tool, you can track and compare team performance over time so that the team can come back, reassess themselves, and compare their results from 4 months ago to now and see that progress. And you can continue to maintain that and reassess every 4 to 6 months so that the team can see real tangible improvement in their performance. Okay, so those are the 4 steps. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. And if you would like an invitation to the team fitness assessment, I see your question, Mark. I'm getting to it. Mark's asking if he can see a sample of the team assessment. You can email me, and I will send you an invitation to complete the team fitness assessment so you can see all the questions asked. If you would like a sample of one of the team tools from the team fitness tool, email me and I will send it to you and you can use it with your team. If you would like a complimentary consultation or you would like to see a live demo of the tool, feel free to email me. And should you not have the handouts, please email me. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me today. And I look forward to hearing from you and continuing the conversation should you have any additional questions. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day. Take care.